Alright folks, this is Darren from Sorta Ridiculous Productions. We're going to get down for the next episode of Drunken Comics at Drunken Cobra. I think that might be a thing. Alright. So with me today we have Chris Schmidt. Alright? A comedian on the scene doing this
That's
thing.
me.
Yes, know what I mean? Yeah, let's do that. Alright, so let's get into it.
All right.
So, how long have you been doing stand-up, Chris?
Coming up on 11 years.
11 years?
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot, huh?
I've seen stuff you're never going to want to see.
What? Wait, what does
Just a lot of bad comedy, really.
Okay. So, with that being said, so what has helped you endure doing comedy for so long?
Obsession. That's really all it is, I think.
Okay.
Like either you get hooked on it and you just keep trying to get better at it. That's kind of what it is for me. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would imagine it gets boring. Either you need a success or obsession. Because also, if I was making money off it and doing well, that would perpetuate me.
Right. Okay, well, that makes sense. So, with you have done it for 11 years, that means that you've seen changes in the scene and stuff like that?
Yeah,
I'm curious, how has it changed over the 11, or what has been your experience throughout the past 11 years?
Just seeing different groups of people come through for the most part, and then different mics. Some mics are going to close, some are going to open. This one, the Drunken Cobra, mm-hmm. That's relatively new. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess styles of comedy too. I mean, comedy's made this shift toward social media now, and it's so much of it is what you see in reels. So now that's kind of what the focus
really
is.
Short-term memory, short-term.
I think
comedy.
it's kind of I think it is sort of condensing the jokes that people do, which is a good thing in some ways.
Yeah, okay. No, I see that. I mean, well, I guess given the nature of the medium, we need to be able to adapt.
Yeah, when I started, people were still listening to comedy albums. I know some do that.
People don't do that anymore?
Some
do
might.
People make albums anymore?
They do. I think
okay.
I think people lean more towards specials, or they want to have a special they could also release as an album. But
right.
I think the specials are kind of the ideal way of seeing it. You're getting to see what a headline set looks like in a club rather than when as opposed to these indie specials versus Netflix specials. Those are done in theaters where it's this the comic's on an unrelatable platitude of success at that point. Mm-hmm. So now that we're seeing people get to self-publish and we're seeing more of these come out on YouTube, we're kind of open mics comics are getting to see a comedy that's closer to them.
Right.
And I think that's also something we're seeing in reels, but in some cases that's comedy that's made by other open mic comics. So even this form is sort of getting a voice.
So it's kind of people that enjoy the underground or the less folks that are not quite there yet. Or I'm gonna say not quite there, but maybe haven't reached that crowd. Or
I think the indie aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's almost it's a little bit more craft focused. If you look at what's made it to the mainstream, whether you define that as Netflix or even beyond that, people who are doing stadium tours.
Right.
There's not as much of that, so there's less to pick from.
Right.
You can't cater what you're watching to your tastes as much versus now with social media and everyone being able to get their. It's the same thing that's happened in music. Look at look at how much easier it is to be an indie band today versus 20
Spotify
years ago when you had to.
And all that. Yeah.
You were trying to drive around and sell records, and that's the only way anyone could have heard you back then would be if you traveled to them and gave them your thing.
Right. Yeah. Social media and all the digital platforms have made it a lot easier to be heard.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, who are some of your inspirations?
I think before I started doing comedy, the first people who I kind of noticed and recognized how I would think about doing it through were probably Mitch Hedberg,
okay, yeah.
Louis C.K. I had one Patton Oswalt album that it was the only comedy album I've listened to over and over and over.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I've never been too comedy probably wasn't the first thing I was drawn toward.
Okay.
I like music more. You
Okay.
know?
Oh, that explains. You
If
having
I was
that
a
guitar
better,
last time.
yeah, if I was a better musician, I probably wouldn't be doing this.
Well, have you ever thought about doing like a combination or two, like writing like comedic songs? Or is that
I've
too
thought
much
about ways of
bastardizing
doing it, but
those?
I don't like that so much. Like that's not my kind of comedy that
Okay,
I enjoy.
okay, I got
So
you,
I don't want
I
to make
got
something
you.
I wouldn't like.
Right. Okay, so how would you define your style? How would you describe your style of comedy?
It's very punchline focused. I'm always thinking about like it's. I think deliberate would be a good word because I
Okay.
want it to like hit the audience exactly how I want it to hit the audience.
Of course.
You
of
know,
course.
like if I'm playing pool, I'm like calling my shots. I want the audience to laugh at this for this reason. So it's very specific how I construct things.
Okay.
So there's a lot of I don't know, a lot of craft that goes into it. I think it's like more process focused than a lot of other comedy would be.
Okay. No, that makes sense. All right. So, do you remember the first joke you ever wrote?
I can remember a couple that I might want to consider giving this honor to. First, the first one I remember from before stand-up. It was just like a jokey joke, you know,
Yeah.
like a pure joke. You'll recognize the format right away. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
The doorbell repairman.
The doorbell repairman. Who?
He has ruined the joke, Darren. Thank you.
I did not. Wait. Oh.
That's why I can't do that one on stage because people they plow right past it.
No, you just tell them that they are ruining the joke. Like, see, I follow.
That's the kind of comedy where it's I like to make the audience kind of work for it, but I like to give them enough that they can get there.
Yeah.
Very disciplined.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
And I can remember one of my old to do like more of an open mic. I can remember one of my early ones from my open mic sets.
Yeah.
Real quick one is just so I was masturbating carelessly the other night.
Carelessly.
And I ruined my favorite She-Hulk comic. That was the entire joke. I guess the
Was that
joke
two
being
lines? No, okay.
the joke being that I was sexually attracted to She-Hulk, which now that's totally normal.
Oh,
now
yeah, most
that's
definitely.
we've gotten there as a
yeah.
society.
We've gone a lot of places as a society.
But that was before the Marvel universe. That was a pre-Marvel universe world.
You know, I could get into that, but no. See, like all the Marvel stuff that's going on right now. If it would have started like 10 years ago, I would have been all about it. I would have been
Same.
in there. You know, I was introduced to like even being a fan of superhero movies with the first Spider-Man movie, and I was like, I didn't think I'd like this, but I do.
I was a comic reader like in middle school, like when I was like a young early teen,
Yeah.
and I just eventually I loved it so much, and I just had to give up because it became like too overwhelming. You know, like suddenly they've got if you want to understand this comic, you got to buy these 12. And I would go into like comic book stores and get stressed out.
Right.
You know, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
It's like keep it simple. Stop
But yeah,
trying to
back
make money
then there
off
was a rumor going on forever that James Cameron was going to make a Spider-Man movie.
What?
And that Leonardo DiCaprio was going to be Peter Parker.
And this is how he's shooting.
And that I was strung along for that. Yeah. Mary Jane can't be older than 27.
Oh my God! Yeah. Oh, that's.
And
hilarious.
like, so I was strung along with that forever. So
Yeah.
then by the time they started actually making the movie, but that was like, 10 years too late for me or something. I still enjoyed them all though, but it wasn't quite from like, I think a little bit of the magic was lost in between.
Oh, of course. It took too long. Much like the second Avatar movie.
Yeah.
Like I still haven't watched it because I can't fathom like putting like 3.5 hours.
I did because it was on stream and I had nothing better to do. But I was like, I'm not going to revisit the first Avatar. I couldn't even make it. I couldn't even make it through the Wikipedia. I tried just catching up there, and I was like, this is the longest Wikipedia I've ever seen.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's funny. All right, so for someone just starting, what kind of tips would you have for like a comedian starting out?
Don't listen to anybody.
Don't
Just
listen to
this right here. This.
Just-
That's the only person you let in your ear. No, that's terrible advice. half listen to other people and then half listen to this. It's got to be like a negotiation between the feedback you receive, which is just, even if it just comes down to our audience is laughing at it.
Yeah.
If like audiences aren't laughing at it and you do it at like 4 mics in a row, just quit, because like you're not going to get any better. You have to be willing to ask all the time, what could I do better? Why didn't this work? If you're not like constantly reflecting on it like that. So I guess also in that you have to stay humble, because I think when people when they get their first 5 minutes that works consistently, you can get complacent really easy, and you're just like a drop of water in the ocean still at that point. Like, having done it 11 years, it's just I'm constantly like zooming backwards, and like realizing how little I knew at this point when I thought I knew something, and then how little I knew at this point when I thought I knew more than I knew at this point. It's just,
and it's still going. Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you're like an encyclopedia of like comedy, in a sense, or maybe not. Maybe not an encyclopedia.
Well, but you can't even, because it's all like applies to my perspective. Like everything's going to work differently for other people too.
Of course.
Because I won't even give anyone advice unless they ask, because like I've had times where I thought I should suggest this to this person, and I did, and they went up there and tried it, and it didn't work. And the worst is when you see someone do that, but because like they like respect you, they keep doing it. One time I had to have a second talk. The most humbling thing was having to have a second talk with like a newer comic that I was just like, I just meant well with.
Yeah.
And being like, hey, you know how you keep doing that thing I told you to do and it's not working? You should stop doing that. But then they did, and it worked. So.
Okay. Well, it is like that.
So stay humble.
Right, stay humble. All right, so with that being said, folks, this has been another episode of Drunken Comics at Drunken Cobra. With me this week was Chris Schmidt. That's right, Chris Schmidt. All right, so we'll catch you next time. Let's get sort of ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I shouldn't have given the impression I do coke. Maybe that was bad. I don't actually do coke. I prefer fentanyl. Fentanyl, this dick in your mouth. Yeah. Don't sit there and not laugh at me like I'm not funny. I'm good at this. Give me the love I deserve.